Hello everyone! So today you are completing a summative. It is your school lunch summative, and part of that deals with analyzing the trends in a line graph. So I wanted to take a few minutes to go over what a line graph is and how to look at a trend in a line graph. Okay, so a line graph is a type of graph that shows the change of a variable over time. And as we can see below in this graph, we have three line graphs, each representing the wildlife population of either bears, dolphins, or whales over a yearly time frame from 2017 to 2022. So some of the parts of a line graph: you have your title, which summarizes what the graph depicts. So in this graph, we're looking at that change in wildlife population. You have your axes, so you have both your x-axis and your y-axis. Your x-axis is this horizontal line that runs from left to right, and it represents what we call the independent variable. So an independent variable is an experimental variable that is affected by change. Most often, an independent variable is going to be time. So in this case, we have the year, which is changing from 2017 all the way up to 2022. Your y-axis, on the other hand, is this vertical line that runs from top to bottom, or bottom to top, however you want to look at it. And that represents the dependent variable. Now, the dependent variable is the experimental variable that's affected by change in the independent variable. So in this case, we have our wildlife population size changing due to the year. So this change is due to the change in the year. Some other important parts to point out: obviously we have our data. So we have each of our data points that are connected with line segments. Then we have on both axes a scale. And a scale is a set of numbers that we use to help measure or quantify the objects that we are measuring. And last but not least is a key, which helps the reader identify the different data sets. So in this case, we have bears in blue, dolphins in orange, and then whales in this gray color. I'm going to be linking the slideshow for each of you in Schoology, so that way you have access to all of this information. So here's each of the parts that I just shared with you. Okay, so a big thing about your summative today is that you're going to have to analyze the trend that you see on your macromolecule graphs. So what is a trend? A trend is the relationship between data that reveals to us a pattern that occurs over time. So those trends can look very different. So we're going to start off looking at linear trends, so trends that go on a line. And those trends can be increasing. So they are going upwards. They can be decreasing, so going down due to the data. Or they can even be stable or constant. So there's not a whole lot of change or variance in the data points. Now, not all trends are going to be linear. So there might be some ups and downs, some variance. So a non-linear data set might look something like that, where it's going up and down. And that can be true in these two graphs that I'm about to show, where we can have this upwards path and then a decrease. So an increase followed by a decrease. Could also look the other way around, so a decrease followed by an increase. And these nonlinear trends can be pretty sharp increases or gradual, which is important for our summative. So this idea of a short and quick or sharp increase and fall versus this gradual path where we're slowly increasing and then slowly decreasing. So before I talk about the summative, I want to do a little bit of practice. So you just looked at the trends, looking at linear trends with increasing, decreasing, or stable. Nonlinear trends, we're looking at a sharp increase and fall or a gradual increase and fall. So in your own words, I want you to try to quickly identify the trend that you're seeing in each of these graphs. So the first one's looking at the value of Sarah's car. So the value of her car versus the years that she has it for. And what's happening in this data? What is the trend? Next, you're looking at the absolute minimum temperature in Dubai in 2005. So in terms of time, we're looking at the month. And then we have temperature. So the temperature in Dubai over each month in the year 2005. So what's happening in this data? What trend do you see? At this time, I would pause the video, think about your answers, and then continue. Okay, now that you've had time to think about the trend, if we go back to looking at the value of Sarah's car, we see a decreasing trend. So the value of her car is decreasing as each year goes by. And then in this one, looking at that minimum temperature in Dubai, we're looking at an increase in that minimum temperature as we go through October, and followed by a decrease and that minimum temperature. And this is a nonlinear trend that is best described by an increasing trend followed by a decrease. And I would say that looking at this data, that increase is fairly gradual. Same with that decrease. Okay, so how does that relate to today's summative? So today, you're taking a summative on macromolecules, and we're actually looking at blood sugar, which is our body's main source of energy, versus the type of food that was eaten. So you're going to be asked to talk about the trend for each of these macromolecules. And we're looking at a time frame of hours after eating versus the blood sugar levels. Once you've analyzed your data, you're going to be asked to write a CER, where you're going to give a response concerning what type of food is best to eat during or before a school day. So is it best to eat a carbohydrate, a protein, or a lipid for a school day, considering that a school day can be about 6 to 8 hours. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions about line graphs or your summative today. Best of luck on your summative.